story to tell. According to Ukraine's Strana, as tension between Kiev and Moscow intensified, the Ukrainian presidential office proposed a new idea by asking the US to supply the state-of-the-art Patriot air defense missile system. In response to the first military standoff of his tenure, President Joe Biden has pledged his unwavering support to Ukraine, including through military aid. His administration has urged European allies, especially France and Germany, to stand with Ukraine as well. Zelensky and his government would like to see more, especially when it comes to high-end weapons. The President's Chief of Staff, Andriy Yermak, puts the request more bluntly than his boss. Ukraine is holding the line against Russia, not just for us, but for the West, he tells Time. And where does the US deploy its Patriot missiles? The closest ones are in Poland. They should be here. It should be noted that the Augsburg site also explicitly mentioned the US Patriot air defense missile system. Analysis shows that this weapon can not only destroy short-range missiles and intercept tactical ballistic missiles in an electronic jamming environment, but also has one of the best lethality and offensive and defensive capabilities. Ukraine hopes that the US military will deploy anti-aircraft missiles, which means that Ukraine will stand with the United States at the military and even political level. Patriot MIM-104 is the main air defense system of the US military, some NATO countries, and its allies. Patriot entered service in 1982 and has undergone several upgrades. The Patriot is similar to the Soviet and Russian S-300 and S-400 systems, with its primary mission being intercepting aerial targets, including enemy aircraft and missiles. Patriot has been used in 4 wars: the 1991 Gulf War, the 2003 invasion of Iraq, the recent war in Syria, and the conflict between the Saudi coalition in Yemen. As such, the Patriot is mainly used in the Middle East, where conflicts are occurring and continuing. Not long ago, Patriot's performance in the conflict in the Middle East was fiercely criticized. In the fall of 2019, the Yemen Houthi armed forces used homemade UAVs and cruise missiles to attack Saudi Arabia's oil plant, protected by 88 Patriot missile systems, but no response of these anti-aircraft systems. The US Secretary of State at that time, Pompeo, admitted the Patriot system was designed to intercept ballistic missiles, flying in a predictable orbit, and for low-range and maneuverable targets like drones or cruise missiles. there's nothing for Patriot can do. Currently, Ukraine's neighbor Poland, an ally of the United States, has bought 2 Patriot systems and 208 missiles for $4.55 billion. The contract was officially signed in 2018, and the handover is expected to be completed in 4 years. As a result, the cost of a Patriot is about $2 billion, and it will take a few years to deliver. But are Mr. Yermak's ideas realistic? Apparently, Ukraine needs more Patriot missiles than Poland. Poland bought the Patriot mainly to intercept the Russian Iskander missile, located in Kaliningrad. In contrast, the border between Ukraine and Russia, which includes the Crimea and Black Sea regions, is more than 2,000 kilometers long, 10 times the border between Poland and Russia. Obviously, Ukraine needs more Patriot missiles to cover such a large area. Contrary to the current budget of Ukraine, it is impractical to buy a large number of Patriot missiles. Ukraine's military budget by 2021 is only $4 billion. This figure is even less than the amount Poland spent to buy 2 Patriot systems. Obviously, Mr. Yermak implied that the US should support Ukraine financially to buy Patriot missiles. In fact, Ukraine doesn't have the money to buy the Patriot either. In this case, Ukraine wants to be provided with free Patriots, since it claims to be outpost against Russia. But this is not realistic. Even the NATO allies of the US must buy Patriot missile systems at a price not cheap. In other words, the US did not want to give Ukraine too much military assistance in the first place. On the other hand, the countries with Patriot missiles, the United States have military bases here, including airports, barracks, and other important facilities. This standard applies not only to NATO countries, but also to other US allies, such as countries in the Middle East or Japan. This is completely incompatible with Ukraine when Kiev is not a member of NATO. If Ukraine wants to get the Patriot system, it must join NATO. But so far, this plan is also very impractical. Earlier, Germany had expressed disagreement with the idea of Ukraine joining NATO, and the American stance was also very vague. In other words, the Patriot missile is only in the dream of Ukraine leaders. The sole purpose of Mr. Yermak's statement was to get as much military and financial support as possible for Ukraine. My video about Ukraine and Patriot MIM-104 answer. Thank you for watching. If you find this video interesting, please give me your thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to support the channel. Goodbye and see you again in the next videos.